Greetings, Earthlings. Welcome to my new self-indulgent foray into gaming coverage. This is the Gaming Aroma Podcast. This is the first episode. This is the launch of the Gaming Aroma Podcast. I am your weary host, KDB. You may remember me from such shows as First Aid Spray, Resident Evil podcast, Tapes from the Wastes, a Fallout podcast, Gears Intel, a Gears of War podcast, Two Carrots, a sort of friend bromance podcast, Starfield Sandwich, a Starfield podcast, and now I'm on hand with a new podcast, because why the hell not? Why the flipping hell not? So, yeah, what is this? What is this and why am I doing it? Okay, I need to get the explanation out of the way right off the bat, because I know some people will be listening to this shaking their heads go, what are you doing? Another podcast. Now, for context, the other shows, they're not all my shows. A couple of them I am just involved with, and they take up very little of my time. But this is something that I've been thinking about for a while, and I'll explain why. But first, what is it? The Gaming Aroma Podcast. This is a more general, broad gaming show, so that's going to be amazing for, reach and the algorithm. Not, because only niche stuff works. But yeah, this is more broad in gaming than any of the other shows I do. The plan is every Sunday morning, fueled by my Sunday morning coffee. I have coffee every day, by the way, but yeah. So Sunday mornings are generally the time. Like, I'm always free Sunday mornings, first thing, there's no school, there's no work, I don't go to the gym on Sunday morning, and I'm generally just Sunday mornings having my coffee, scrolling social media anyway. So I thought, right, I'm going to use that hour or so to be a bit more productive. So every Sunday morning, fueled by my coffee, I'm going to just kind of talk about some of the gaming news headlines from across the week. I'm going to talk about my own gameplay as well, games that I'm playing. And it's going to have, this is going to be so much more relaxed than any of the other shows that I do. It's going to be honest, authentic, uncensored, I suppose. It's definitely unscripted. I have literally 7 bullet points in front of me. And I'm just trying to freestyle. Yeah, very relaxed, very kind of free form and off the cuff. Of all this gaming stuff. But why am I doing this, you might think? There's loads of gaming podcasts out there that you probably already listen to. Why me? Why listen to me? Well, it's for me. It's for me, and, anybody who wants to listen, fantastic. But the thing is, I obviously love gaming, and I love talking about gaming. As I've touched on many of my other shows, I don't really have people in my day-to-day life that I talk about gaming outside of the internet and outside of podcasting. My wife has a Switch and likes, through osmosis, she sort of absorbs some gaming stuff from me, but we can't really have those long conversations. She doesn't care about, the new exclusives. She doesn't care about game sales numbers. She doesn't care about game tech. Probably, and I'm jealous of that. I wish I didn't care. But I fucking do. So I'm doing it because I don't have anybody to talk about it outside of the internet. And when I do talk about it on the internet, it's usually on Twitter. And Twitter is shit. Let's face it. We know this. Twitter has gone downhill. It used to be a really great place to kind of engage and have broad conversations with people. Twitter has very, very slowly killed nuance, and obviously now it just rewards engagement more than ever, and generally that engagement is toxic or pornographic or kind of spammy, and yeah, it's just down the pan. There's no point putting my sincere thoughts out on Twitter, because generally nobody will see them. Sometimes even my own followers won't see them, because yeah, it's just fickle out there. So Twitter is a waste of time. So I've been slowly more and more moving my opinions away from Twitter. And when I tweet stuff, it's generally just really offhand, terrible, memes, jokes, kind of sarcastic comments, or I'm replying to somebody else like in kind of support or whatever like that. I very, very rarely, tweet anything sincere. I still do now and again, but like I say, when I do, I realize it's pointless because nobody actually comes and has a conversation with you. So Twitter is a joke, and I wanted a place to talk more at length, be a bit more sincere, and like I say, a bit more loose and off the cuff about the thing that I love, which is gaming. And it's not just going to be me. Like, the bulk is me. It's me. It's funny because I think about podcasts that I listen to, which are generally like 2 people, sometimes 3. I do listen to a lot of podcasts that are just one person, and my main kind of entertainment and content absorption is through YouTube, and pretty much all my favorite YouTubers, journalists and stuff, it's just them staring into the camera, talking about stuff, and that's the stuff I enjoy, and so that's kind of the stuff that I want to do as well. Don't get me wrong, I love talking to other people and having people to bounce off of, and there's going to be for this. I've spoken to a few people about this podcast, and I already have people that are just like, yeah, I'll come on, love a place to just kind of shoot the shit and, relax and talk about gaming without the pressure of like a hardcore review or, a sincere deep dive and stuff. Just the kind of conversation that is more that you would just kind of have with your mates, when you're meeting up in real life or down at the pub or wherever you go. I don't even really go to the pub these days. This is what I mean. This is my going to the pub podcasting. It's so weird how life has changed like that. So it's a general gaming show. I wanted a place away from Twitter, which is, I'm still on there, and I have no desire to join other social media sites. I know they're out there. I can't do it. There's too much social media in my life as it is. I'd say 90% of the negativity in my life comes from social media. So I'll be cutting that back. I'll still use it, like I say, and I'll be posting this on there. But I would love for people to come and engage with this show. Come on this show. Come and talk to me. It doesn't have to be Sunday morning. I'm planning on doing it every week, every Sunday morning. But that doesn't mean I can't set up and record, any other time. To suit other people. In terms of making this work, I'm sat in my office at the moment at home. My office, my spare room. And I'm recording it properly in front of my laptop with my microphone. There's probably going to be times where I might just be on the sofa downstairs and I'm going to record directly into my phone, because I need to ensure that the production of this doesn't kind of kill me because I'm already busy with work and life and other podcasts. So yeah, it's don't expect anything too flashy, at least for now. It's just gonna be me and my voice. People that know me as well. This is the other thing. I know that I connect with some people on Twitter who have never actually had a conversation with me in real life, and they have they'll have like a picture of me or an opinion of me formed purely from these short sentences that I put out on Twitter, which are purposefully made to probably not accurately represent me. So if you think you've made a fucking accurate opinion of me on Twitter, sorry to disappoint you, but it's probably informed by my own stupidity and trolling. I'm not a troll, but I just don't take Twitter that seriously. And I think instantly, whenever you have conversations with people face to face or properly long form on a podcast, I think of people like content creators that I listen to on their channels, and then I see them tweeting and I just think, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you saying that? And I get it. I guess they're just they're leaning into the algorithm game, or they're just doing what I do and they're just literally taking the piss because they don't take it seriously. So, this, as I said, is very laid back. This podcast is going to be laid back and chilled, but I'm taking this more seriously than I take my tweets. You can be kind of fully assured of that. So yeah, that's why I'm doing it. A place to talk about the thing that I love more broadly, touch on headlines and my gameplay. And I'm not done with social media. I just can't stand it. So I'm moving more and more towards this stuff. How is it going to work going forward? So, as I said, probably every Sunday. This first episode is a bit experimental, and obviously I need to introduce what I'm doing, so all this preamble is not the sort of stuff that will be on other episodes. But I'm thinking, like I say, I want them to be about an hour. Maybe like I'll generally touch on 2 or 3 of the big headlines that have caught my eye, give some thoughts, talk about gameplay, do a gameplay section, and then from time to time we'll absolutely be joined by other gamers, podcasters, people that I basically just gone and begged to come on, and they've kindly agreed. And yeah, it'll all be fueled by this. Have my coffee. I have hazelnut in my coffee today, just so you know. And yeah, that's the plan, really. If you've got this far already, well done. Fantastic. Sorry if you can hear my son in the background as well, by the way. His grandparents are around. My mother-in-law and my father-in-law are around. They're playing with him, so you might hear them in the background. Yeah, and I just want to kind of crack on and see how it goes. And if you've made it this far, great. Please come and, let me know what you think. I probably should say all that stuff at the end, I suppose. But yeah, this is already like 12 minutes of me just introducing and waffling, and I've barely even talked about the gaming stuff yet. So why don't we do that? Let's start with that. As I said, I've been thinking about doing this for a while, but it's more recently, some headlines recently is what really, really kind of sparked me thinking I need to just start this podcast now and crack on with it, because I got, lots to think about, lots to vent about, and hopefully invite conversation from you about as well. So what's going on? What are the headlines? Gaming news headlines. There's always stuff that I can't talk about everything. I'll be here for 3 hours. But as I say, I'm just going to pick the stuff that resonates with me and really catches my eye. So, as of the past week, or maybe slightly more than a week, there's definitely a few that I'm going to kick off this initial launch episode with and really dive into and give my thoughts on. Let's start with number 1, top of the list, which is going to be probably no surprise to everybody who knows me, and that is the Xbox Business Update. So, this week, this past Thursday, Xbox delivered a podcast which outlines some of their business strategy moving forward and just some updates on where Xbox is going and what they're doing. Now, this kind of came after some rumours exploded online about Xbox going multi-platform and some of their big exclusives going to rival consoles. Now, I talked a little bit on Starfield Sandwich about this. We did a whole episode that focused on Starfield on PS5 after that first rumour broke. And you can hear me talk kind of at length about it on there. Excuse me. But the funny thing is, this idea about Xbox being multi-platform and their games going to other consoles is not new. This has been going around for a while. And people who are... So yeah, for those that don't know about me, I am an Xbox player. I don't have a PS5. I don't have a PC. I have other PlayStation consoles, and I've not only played Xbox my entire life, but I'm primarily in the Xbox ecosystem. So that it's always going to be kind of the main thing that I'm knowledgeable about, or sort of the angle I'm coming from. I'm definitely not a console warrior Xbox fanboy, as I've kind of tried to say many times. I'm like a gaming fanboy and a consumer warrior, and I will absolutely and have criticised Microsoft and Xbox for all the shit stuff that they do from time to time. But as for this, rumours broke online, I should say, of these games going to other platforms. But people like me kind of raised their eyebrows and said, well, hang on, this isn't new. The idea of some Xbox games appearing on other platforms is a thing that they've been talking about for a while. For a long time, it felt like the Xbox strategy was to get Game Pass on other platforms. They wanted a Game Pass app on a PlayStation, a Game Pass app on a Switch. They've already got Game Pass on a TV, and so this Play Anywhere thing that they've been pushing, this is not new. I think the thing that put the wind up a few people was when that rumour broke of Starfield going to PlayStation, which I'll get to in a sec, because we ended up in a place now where that is not the case, at least for now. For things like other Xbox exclusives, live service games that are slightly older, going to other platforms, like I say, that's not new. And I'm kind of fully behind games like the supposed, it's not confirmed, but games like Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, Pentiment, and what was the other one? Grounded. These games going to other services, to other platforms to increase the player base, increase the exposure, generates game sales that feeds back into Xbox as well. What is wrong with that? There is nothing wrong with that. There is, the thing that people were kicking up a fuss about was, okay, if you're going to put things like Starfield and Halo and Gears of War on other platforms, this then destroys the incentive to get Xbox hardware. Does it mean they're not going to make hardware anymore? What's the point investing in an Xbox ecosystem going forward? A digital library, if all these games are just going to appear on PlayStation. I mean, I don't really buy it. I don't really buy that big Xbox games being on other platforms means I don't want to play my Xbox. The fact is, I'm already invested in the ecosystem. The way my cross save works, the way I love backwards compatibility, the play anywhere stuff, as we've mentioned, cross progression, cross play, all this stuff that Xbox has been doing, the way that Xbox Live works, it's not called Xbox Live anymore, but the party chat, all these things that I've loved, achievements about Xbox, I'm fine with just that being the exclusive for me, because that's what I enjoy. And then the controller. I prefer the controller. I've talked about how I think the Xbox controller is better. There's lots of reasons to play on an Xbox platform outside of the games. One of the huge things about for Xbox with me was Gears of War. That's what enticed me to the 360, and Gears of War is not the thing that's kept me playing on Xbox the whole time. It's the wider ecosystem, as I've mentioned. So when I saw fanboys going crazy, selling their Xboxes, saying the platform is dead, I mean, I don't know what to really think about that shit, other than that's just not me. I'm an Xbox fan, but I'm not that kind of Xbox fan. So it was wild for about a week with all these rumors floating around. And I've read a lot and listened to a lot of people's thoughts on it, and there were some people panicking, saying, yeah, this is the death of the brand, it's going to kill them. Just absolute kind of craziness. And the whole time I was kind of convinced that, as I said, not much was going to change because they've been talking about games going to other platforms anyway. The only one that did surprise me is I thought Starfield was slightly surprising because it felt like that was one that they were nurturing as, no, this is an exclusive. It's going to be, you can only play this on an Xbox platform. So I was kind of like, that feels like a step slightly too far, but I didn't mind it. More people playing Starfield was fine with me. The only thing I was worried about was, what does that mean for the ecosystem? What does it mean for my cloud saves, for my digital library? Even though I prefer physical and I still buy physical, these rumors of the big exclusives going to other platforms, what did that mean for my hardware, for the Xbox box, that piece of plastic that we buy? Stuff that probably isn't going to be around in the next 15 years anyway. Same for Sony. So they were my questions that I was kind of concerned about. The games, make everyone play the games, That's fine by me. It feels like they're all kind of leaning towards less exclusivity anyway, and I'll talk more about Sony in a bit. But I was just kind of, okay. And the only point I was quote unquote worried is when I thought about what happened to Stadia, and Stadia, it went away and they refunded everyone. So there is precedent for this happening. Now, obviously, Microsoft and Xbox has a longer legacy and a longer history than Stadia, but I started to imagine a scenario in my mind where I was like, it is not out the realms of possibility that top brass at Microsoft step in and say, this isn't working, we're shutting it down, we're just becoming a third-party publisher. I mean, could they refund everyone's digital libraries if there's no longer a box to play it on? They probably could. Is that insane? I don't know. What's that? A couple of billion out of their pocket? I don't know. Or refund it to a point. Maybe they're like, any purchases made in the last 5 years or something like that. So I was kind of thinking, right, I would like to know what's going on now, because exclusive games doesn't bother me. Cool. Get more people playing Starfield, Gears of War, Halo. Fantastic. Because most of my friends are PlayStation players. So, it meant that they could finally jump on board. I was kind of sad, thinking, well, it's probably not going to be a two-way street. I'd love for some of those PlayStation exclusives to come along. But yeah, I was starting to ask questions about what does this mean for the future. And then we got to the business update, and like quite a few people predicted, it was just completely nothing. I mean, you could say there was something, because they said we are bringing 4 games to other platforms, and they didn't name them. And even though everybody knows what they are, and just a side note on that, and I did a sort of sarcastic tweet about this, there is this kind of huge push against leaks and taking reveals away from developers and things like that after we saw the stuff that happened at Insomniac and stuff with Capcom and Nvidia. There's been a slow kind of pushback against leaks in the future, and then at this business update, Phil Spencer was like, I'm not going to name the games today because the people who are making them have some great plans in mind to launch them and reveal them. So we're going to let them do that. And everyone was like, what? No, tell us now. This is weird. This is insane. Like people basically screaming online, spoilt gamers demanding that Phil Spencer leak the names of these games, when anyone with half a brain knows that, look, okay, if Hi-Fi Rush is coming to Switch, Nintendo have got a deal in place that's like, look, we get to announce this. We've got a marketing campaign to make sure people come and fucking buy Hi-Fi Rush on their Switch. And if you just blurt that out on a podcast, it kills the hype. It's, these games have to be managed delicately. The marketing has to be done carefully to make sure it reaches the people, because what we need to understand as well is Twitter is a bubble, and this Xbox podcast is not for the person on the street. It was for people on Twitter, and just for people who are tied into that bubble and that little echo chamber that we're all in as hardcore gamers. If you're listening to this, there is a good chance you're online a fair bit and you're clued in to this news. Maybe you're not, and maybe I'm bringing it to your ears for the first time, which fantastic. I mean, maybe don't completely trust me, because I'm just, like I say, spitballing off the top of my head here. But yeah, that's what happened. Phil Spencer said, no, I'm not going to tell the names of these games. We're going to let them do it. And it's like, yeah, great. Let them do it, guys. Let Hi-Fi Rush get its big launch on the Switch. Whatever they've got planned. Maybe they've made a new trailer. Maybe there's some extra DLC coming with it. Just let them do it, So the demanding for the leaks was dumb, as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, by the end of this business update, we basically established that Xbox and Microsoft is continuing to push its vision of getting as many Xbox games in front of people on as many screens as possible, which is nothing new. Just slight change on exclusives, but none of these exclusives that, are new. They hinted at what they are, and I've said what apparently they are. Something like Sea of Thieves, that's obviously plateaued on Xbox. Why wouldn't you put it on other platforms? Do it. Fantastic. By all accounts, it's a good game. I don't play Sea of Thieves. Hi-Fi Rush, Shadow dropped. People have kind of decided, as exciting as a Shadow drop was, it probably wasn't the best way to release that game, and it would have definitely hurt sales, but massively well reviewed. Time for a big marketing push. Get Hi-Fi Rush in front of the Sony players and the Nintendo players. Get those trailers out there. Get the game on sale. Buy it. And lo and behold, that helps fund Hi-Fi Rush 2. Fantastic. So yeah, there's lots of reasons to do that, and then there are still reasons, and Xbox has made it clear. It said, look, Starfield and Indiana Jones are not coming, not these games that are coming, at least yet. Phil Spencer also said in an interview with The Verge, with Tom Warren, that let's never say never. And some people have kind of lost their minds about that comment as well, and I just think, rein it in, because of course never say never. Of course never say never. I think we are moving away from exclusivity. I think the big ones, I'm kind of fine with some timed exclusivity with some games. I've said before on my other shows how I think exclusivity can help small indie games, because then you've got the Sony, Nintendo, and Xbox marketing resources behind this little indie game, and they hype it up as an exclusive. You can only play, Planet of Lana. You can only play Stray, Scorn. These indie games you can only play on our platform. I'm sure there's some indie Sony exclusives I'm forgetting, but their marketing generally isn't fantastic. And yeah, so there's actually an argument to be made that exclusivity helps those games because it brings the awareness. Whereas if they were just on every platform, why would they chuck more marketing resources behind it to big them up, because you can just get it anywhere. So I think there's something to be said for smaller exclusivity. When it comes to the big ones, I'm kind of fine with timed exclusivity for, 6 months, a year. If you help fund a game, if you help get it, sure, that's your right as a business to do that. I think FOMO is dumb. People need to get over FOMO. I appreciate being part of the conversation is a big deal, and I like being part of the conversation. But do you know what? There's so many fucking games out there that, does it really matter if you're missing out? Do you know what I'm doing if I'm missing out on a big Sony exclusive? I go and play a game on my Xbox that I haven't played yet. I play something from my backlog. I dig something out of the crate. I find an indie game and I play that. And you know what? I'm perfectly satisfied and fulfilled. So yeah, long way to a short point. The Xbox business update and all the kind of news headlines were all the lead up to it. And then now this business update has happened. We've established, we're testing the water and sending out a few games to see what the reaction is and help the life of these games. Still got exclusives coming. They confirmed they're still all in on hardware. They're still protecting the digital library. I recommend you go and watch the 20-minute video and also read the tweets that Xbox put out because, it turned out to be kind of nothing. And as for me, my big worry, as I said, was the ecosystem and the hardware, and they put my mind at rest about that. No Stadia situation, no refunds to everybody. Xbox isn't going anywhere. They're kind of just carrying on as they are. And if you're crying about Hi-Fi Rush going to PlayStation, get over it. If you're crying about Sea of Thieves going to PlayStation, get over it. I mean, it's just nonsense. Look at the bigger picture here. This will help those games, help those franchises. And the fewer exclusives, the better. This is not the way things work anymore. Right, that's Xbox business update out the way. There's loads more I could say about this, but I don't want this podcast to become, what's the word? I don't want to become kind of lost in the abyss of one topic. I just want to, like I say, that 10-minute rant or whatever I just had. I can't tweet out that stuff, so I'm ranting at you here. Was it a rant? It's more just I don't know, venting. I don't know. Like I say, I can't talk to my wife about this because she doesn't care. I'm talking to you listening this. Thank you for listening, whoever you are. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of rants in future. Right, news headlines continuing. What do we have next? Sony CEO Hiroki Totoki confirms that PS5 is in the latter stages of life. What? I think that was my first reaction. What? When I read this. And this kind of ties into some of the Xbox stuff, because what's funny is all the things that kicked up the fuss was Xbox talking about the multi-platform thing. And another thing that the Sony CEO said... Sorry, not Sony CEO. He's the PlayStation CEO, right? Yeah, he's a CEO of PlayStation. Jim Ryan's still there, I think, but he's finishing up and retiring, apparently. Definitely not forced out. Yes, but Totoki was talking about... I don't have an article in front of me, but he was basically talking about Sony's strategy moving forward. And in a nutshell said, lads, we need to make some more money here. Our margins are pretty terrible. I mean, he didn't say this, but people know. The margins at PlayStation are pretty thin and they got some work to do. And the CEO was talking about how they are going to aggressively focus on multi-platform. Now, when he says multi-platform, I don't kind of get the feeling that he's talking about putting God of War and Horizon on Xbox and Switch. I think they're more talking about PC. Sony, it's taken them a long time, but they started to put their games on PC eventually. And now we've just had the release of Helldivers 2, which is not a first-party game, it's a second-party game. And that's come out on PS5 and possibly PS4, I'm not sure, and PC day and date. That's a multi-platform strategy, and we've seen the numbers for Helldivers doing great, the reviews are good, and yeah, Sony are going to be probably using that as another testing the water thing and thinking, is this worth doing more? Because, as we know, producing these games, particularly for Sony and their big heavy hitters, it ain't cheap. 300 million, was that the budget for Spider-Man 2? It was that double the budget of the first one? Was it double the quality? Did you get double the enjoyment? I don't know. I'm keeping my comments they're just questions. I don't really have any opinion on Spider-Man 2. I haven't played it. It looks good, looks awesome. I haven't played any of those Spider-Man PlayStation games. I don't have a PlayStation. I'd love to play them. Been waiting for a PlayStation price drop, but that ain't happening. The price is going up. But, maybe it will happen because apparently PS5 is in the latter stages of life. Now, what's the reasons for this? Now, also, they could be saying, look, the PS5 is in the latter stages of its life cycle. There's apparently a PS5 Pro coming. Are they basically implying that is it? That's your PlayStation 5 as a generation isn't necessarily ending, but the current PS5, yeah, it's being discontinued. So that makes sense if there's a Pro on the way. But from what I understand, they haven't sold as many PS5s as they want to. They haven't sold as many PS5s as obviously it's still earlier in the life cycle, but I think, was it this at the same amount of time they haven't sold as many PS4s as they have, or I might be thinking about PS2. The number is certainly nowhere near the total sales of the PS2, but you think they'd want to be hitting that, right? They want to be outselling their previous consoles. Otherwise, are they seeing it as a failure as a business? But yeah, so why is it in the latter stages of life? It's been a weird generation, as we know. COVID, chip shortages, development cycles are incredibly long these days. The budgets of the games are long. So having a successful console generation, especially when you are sticking to a old business model, is going to be extremely challenging. And I think obviously that's, the proof is in the pudding now. The Sony CEO has come out and basically said, we need to be making more money. This whole live service thing has, I won't say completely gone in the bin, but, they've cancelled some games. And maybe, like Xbox, Sony are going to start rethinking their strategy. And this idea of being multi-platform makes more sense because selling consoles is, it's peaked. We know this. Console numbers have kind of plateaued. What is it, like 200 million? Or it's like 200 or 250 million or something like that. That's the number of people that play consoles. Young people aren't really interested in consoles. They don't give a shit where they play the games because they just want to play on their iPads. I think mobile and PC are the only growing gaming markets, which is why you see people like Apple trying to get into it and why you see things like the Steam Deck and Steam blowing up. So shifting PS5s and Xboxes and Series consoles, shifting consoles and increasing that number is kind of impossible these days because it's not the main place that people want to play, or at least a lot of people want to play, because we've got iPads, iPhones, Android phones, and smartphones, I should say, because you can play on any kind of smartphone. So how do you grow your numbers? How do you grow your business? Well, clearly you can't sell more consoles, so you have to sell more software. How do you sell more software? You put it on all the other fucking platforms, which is what Microsoft is doing because they've obviously identified this problem a long time ago and used Game Pass as this kind of like way to subsidize some part of their new strategy. Whatever you think of Game Pass, it's like yeah, people don't really want to pay that kind of money for games. And you can look at Sony's exclusives and say, yep, Spider-Man sold really well. It's Spider-Man, right? It's make a decent game, half your job is done for you there. It's Spider-Man, it's recognizable. I'm going to get some more game sales talk in a minute, which is going to kind of give some context to my point there. But as we know, people don't really. But I need to rephrase what I'm saying. The majority of people that have PlayStations haven't bought them to play the PlayStation exclusives. They bought them to play Call of Duty, Fortnite, FIFA, Madden. This is it. This is just the way it goes. Those kind of 10 to 20 million people that play God of War, Horizon, Spider-Man, it's a small percentage of the total player base and the total install base. We know this. This is not me being like an Xbox fanboy trying to talk down to Sony. It's just the way it is. People I know personally buy PlayStations because they thought PlayStation was the only place you could get Call of Duty. That's marketing for you. So yeah, Sony are obviously changing things up. Jim Ryan is on the way out. Hiroki has come in and he's like, yeah, we need to make more money. Live service might not be the way to go. We need to shift more software though, because people ain't buying consoles because nobody cares about consoles anymore, apart from me, apart from boomers like me. I'm not a boomer, but technically I'm a millennial. Yeah, we still love that. Say we, I don't know how old you are listening to this. I'm not trying to assume your age, but there is obviously a huge console player base out there. It's not the one that's growing. And Sony knows this, and they're going to shift their strategy, probably put more games, more of their PlayStation exclusive games, PlayStation first party on PC day and date. It's the only way, I say it's the only way they can sustain this crazy business, but that may not even work. I mean, these budgets are spiraling out of control. It's getting a bit kind of unbelievable. As I said, are you getting the quality back from those budgets? That's just a question. I look at the budgets of the big games I play and what I want from a game, and it varies. It varies. I've finished Prince of Persia earlier this year. That game didn't cost 300 million. But it's one of the best games I've played in the last 5 years. So maybe games don't need to cost 300 million. But yeah, I suppose my takeaway from this and these kind of comments on the Sony strategy is they are doing very similar things to what Xbox are doing. It's maybe just taking them a little longer to get there, and they really, really don't want to let go of that old model, buying the game outright for 70 quid or whatever it's going to cost. And yeah, it's just taking them time to adapt. And they now know they're going to have to adapt because those margins are tight. They're not selling as many consoles as they want to. It's so funny because from us as a consumer, we don't care. Like, I don't really care how many consoles PlayStation sells or Xbox sells. As long as I get what I want, it's up to them to develop the good strategy. It's not up to me to figure it out. But it's just clear to me that they are also, like Xbox, shifting their strategy. And we're going to be seeing some different models appear. We're going to be seeing things changing. We're already seeing it. We're seeing it in lots of ways. So yeah, my takeaway is people who have seen Sony as this massive success, which they are in a huge way, but they're a massive success by the skin of their teeth based on a model that is now dying. And I think everyone knows that. They obviously know that. And things are going to change. And maybe, finally, I can just hope and pray. I'll get God of War on my Xbox. I'll get Spider-Man on my Xbox. Maybe not yet, but maybe in the future. Maybe I'll get Spider-Man 3 on my Xbox. So, yeah, I just thought it was funny that there was obviously this huge fuss about Xbox and what are they doing in multi-platform. I definitely didn't see as much fuss about Sony. The comment about PS5 being the latter stages of life definitely hit headlines. And people are like, huh, what? But, when you think about it, it's like apparently Xbox are working on new hardware as well. And there's been, for about a year now, a lot of talk because of the way the tech moves, that this is probably going to be the shorter generation. Xbox also mentioned in that business update about the biggest technical leap in hardware you've ever seen, which, I mean, I highly doubt that, but they claim that's what's coming for the next piece of hardware. That's going to need to be something special to kind of beat the jump from like original Xbox to Xbox 360, or, you know, from 2D to 3D, that kind of thing. But anyway, that remains to be seen. But yeah, I'm really, really interested to see what PlayStation's moves are, because, I mean, for me, what do I really want? I finally want a price drop. If there's a PS5 Pro coming out, maybe that means those base models will be discontinued and discounted massively. I might finally buy a PlayStation 5. I'll be all in on that. I'd love to. I just can't justify. It's weird because you used to live in a time where this would happen. You'd wait. You didn't want something at launch. You wait. Oh, wait for the price to drop down. Wait for that mid-gen refresh. The base model will drop. I'll get a good deal. That's not happened this time. The fucking prices have gone up, and it's just it's painful. This is what, year 3? We're entering. No. So when did they come out? November 2020. 21, 22, 23, but 3.5 years into the generation. By general standards, that's like halfway through a generation nearly. And by this point, you should be getting a discounted console. No, now they're more expensive. I think they both added prices, right? Xbox and Sony. Sony did it first, added like 50 quid to the price of the console. So that's just getting more and more out of my reach. But yeah, just shifting times in Xbox and PlayStation. I'm kind of excited and intrigued because I think all of us just want more access to games. We have our preferences in what we enjoy. I talked about the reasons I like the Xbox ecosystem, and I've played on the PlayStation ecosystem. I personally don't enjoy it as much. I don't think it works as well. I don't like the controller. The controller is only for people with kind of small hands. The new controller, the PS5 controller, is probably the best controller they've ever had. It's still not as good as the Xbox controller, and talk about haptics all you want. Apparently haptics are coming to the next Xbox controller as well. I've spoke to a lot of people who play with haptics, and some of them are like, yeah, it's cool. A lot of people I spoke to say, oh, I just turn that off, so they don't like it. So it's not like a key selling point, you know. But yes, very interested to see what Sony do, I suppose. And I want that price drop. So what else do we have? I have 2 more headlines I want to touch on here, and these will be a little bit more brief. One of them is Alan Wake 2. Alan Wake 2 is the fastest selling Remedy game ever. However, it's yet to turn a profit. This is a thing that popped up on my timeline yesterday from Eurogamer. From Eurogamer. This is written by Victoria Kennedy. And Alan Wake 2 is developer Remedy's fastest selling game to date, but the studio is still to recuperate the project's development and marketing costs. In its latest financial report, Remedy said Alan Wake 2 has now sold 1.3 million units, which is incredible numbers, 1 million of those occurring by the end of last year. This equates to 50% more copies and over 3 times more digital copies of Alan Wake 2 sold in the game's first 2 months than its previous release Control managed in its first 4 months, though it is worth noting Alan Wake 2 was a digital-only release. Control has since gone on to sell 4 million units. Remedy said it expected a similar trend with Alan Wake 2, which is a great game that can generate excellent long-tail sales. Absolutely, it can. However, as the article always mentions here, games lose value over time and the price comes down, so it takes longer to make your money back. As we know, Epic Games bought the publishing rights. How much money they gave towards the development of this game, I have no idea. But this is where I did one of my sincere tweets actually yesterday. I retweeted this article and I just said that basically it's like a crying shame. Like, it's fantastic that it's sold this much, because selling over 1 million copies is like a huge achievement. But then, as cruelly as you have to look at it, if they haven't made their money back, what does that mean for the studio? Now, they don't have to make their money back every single time to continue something on forever, but they will be looking at that, and Epic will be looking at that. You know, it's a long-term thing. They can take a loss on something and not kill it. But it's just a shame because I think Alan Wake 2 deserved more. And I put a lot of the blame, I should say, at Epic. The fact that this game was locked to the Epic Game Store. There's no physical release, which, Remedy are going to have some say in that as well, because they've chosen to use their resources to, funnel that back into the development of the game, and not putting a physical out means there's more money to go back into the development of the game, I suppose. But the way this is like one of Epic's first big published games, right? That, isn't Fortnite or whatever. And for me, they haven't done their duty here to the game to ensure it's a profitable success. They should have marketed it. They should have marketed it better. There was no marketing campaign for Alan Wake, and I know that there was marketing online. Obviously, we had the trailers and the studio putting messages out and stuff like that, but this is a game that absolutely screams for smart, clever, viral marketing, mixed media marketing and different. It's a game that could have done so much more with its marketing because it is so different. There was no TV commercial for Alan Wake 2, and I know TV ads are expensive, but a TV ad for this could have worked wonders for the sales of the game. And the fact that it's already mixed media, a TV advert could have tied into the game in a weird way. Like, it's just, there was so much opportunity there to do something clever with the marketing. There was no billboards, no bus stops. There weren't no billboards and bus stop posters where I lived, that's for sure. And I'm not saying that they need to be everywhere on planet Earth, but Epic Games absolutely have the resources to funnel, that into Alan Wake 2. And if they think, right, we've bought the rights to publish this on our platform and our launcher, then we want to make sure people buy it. And people don't want to use the Epic Games Store launcher. They want to be able to buy it on Steam. So you're already kind of cutting off your nose to spite your face. So put some extra effort into making sure the game sells, and not having a physical release will have harmed that. Being locked to one launcher will have harmed that. And yeah, I just think this is a massive missed opportunity, and I'm sure the game will continue to sell and it'll continue to have life. I don't think Alan Wake is going anywhere, but these are precarious times. These are really precarious times, and it is business at the end of the day, as horrible as that is for some people to hear. If stuff isn't making money, it's not just going to be subsidized forever. So hopefully there's some longer legs in Alan Wake 2, because it is a fantastic, incredible game. Right, final headline, which is just a really quick one, which I saw last night as well. Video Games Chronicle last night reported. Now, they reported based on a source from somewhere else, right? Let me just quickly have a look at the article. So, news headline, Nintendo Switch 2 will now launch in 2025. Which is painful to read. I mean, yeah, I don't want to come off as like a spoiled brat here, but come on. We have been waiting and waiting for, the Switch 2. The Nintendo Switch, which was already out of date when it launched, clearly doesn't matter. It's, it's the best-selling console, right? Like, it's Nintendo's best-selling console ever. They've sold just fine. It doesn't matter that it's Stone Age technology and all that. I'm joking. I love the Switch. But we've kind of wanted, I say we, me personally, and a lot of people I know, we wanted that Switch 2 or a Switch Pro at the very least, like 2 or 3 years ago. Some of those games it's so annoying because you look at something like Super Mario Wonder, which is absolutely beautiful, so much fun, runs stunningly well, and then you look at Tears of the Kingdom, which is this incredible game that just runs like absolute ass on the Switch. And I'm someone that can play it, and it doesn't take away necessarily from my experience, and I can see I can accept, I can still have fun with it. And I think to kind of outright refuse to play it is because of that. It's stupid, but because it runs well enough, but oh my God, it deserves to run better. And a Switch Pro could have made it run better. And I mean, God damn you, Nintendo, you're going to sell me Tears of the Kingdom again, aren't you? Or you're going to sell me a patch to make it run better. And I think everybody, we've been clamoring for it for 2 or 3 years, that Switch Pro model, the Super Nintendo Switch or the Switch 2. And I think everyone just kind of assumed, I'm sure, so there were reports late last year, people had been shown the Switch 2. I think there was no, like, because everyone's like under NDA, but rumors were coming out that, what was it? Was it Gamescom? One of the events, some journalists were showing the Switch 2. Dev kits have all gone out and blah, blah, blah. Games are being made. We know it's happening. We know some version of the next iteration of the Switch is happening. And the word on the street, the word on the online street was that it was launching this year. That seems to have now changed. According to Video Games Chronicle, previously VGC reported that the Nintendo Switch was targeting its launch for late 2024. This was later supported by other outlets. Update: since publishing the story, VGC has heard from multiple sources who said Nintendo has told its publishers its next console will now launch in Q1 2025. According to the sources, third-party game companies were recently briefed on an internal delay in Nintendo's next-gen launch timing. One publishing source suggested the delay was so that Nintendo could prepare stronger first-party software for the console. It's possible that the next-gen Nintendo console will follow a similar timeline to the Switch that was released in March but announced that previous year. VGC has asked Nintendo to comment on the story. So, yeah, they're obviously making games. They want some big games to launch with. Nintendo got to make money as well. They want to make sure it sells. They'll do fine. I don't think they're going to fuck this up. This is not going to be a Wii U situation. It's going to be an iterative Switch, but not in the way that the Wii U was an iterative version of the Wii. I think it's largely going to be the same with better performance. If it doesn't have backwards compatibility, they are going to be in big trouble. So I think it will. There may be 2 models, who knows? This 2 SKU thing, which, digital only plus physical, which the other platforms have been doing. Still, a lot remains to be seen, but we thought it was this year, and now it's next year. But, it's fine. There's plenty of games to play in the meantime. So that's the headlines out the way. I realise I've been going for quite a while. This is obviously a big, chunky first episode. Those are just the things that really caught my eyes and ears this past week or so. When I do these in future, the news headlines, it's probably going to be a bit snappier. I'm going to jump on the things that catch my eye and give some thoughts. But before I move on to some gameplay, I just want to give a shout out to David Smiley, my co-host, my Gears Intel. He's one of three legs of the tripod for Gears Intel. David Smiley, also of A Winner As You, podcasting powerhouse Alex and David from A Winner As You, who joined me on Gears Intel. On the latest episode of A Winner As You podcast, David was talking about how he's so, obviously all these amazing games are coming out and that came out in 2023 and that are coming out this year. We're all playing amazing games, but he's so just kind of tired of the games industry. And I really, I have to echo those thoughts. I really felt that because he's right. At every avenue of the games industry, I've been sat here talking about Xbox strategy and PlayStation strategy, but we know there's been, layoffs every which corner of the industry, which is always horrible to see. And we know everything's in flux, and that stuff is tiresome. Game budgets are tiresome. Game journalism is really fucking tiresome. I mean, it might be, is it the worst it's ever been? The stuff that some of the big outlets have been doing, that content creators are doing, the sort of toxicity, the fanboyism, the console warring, layoffs, acquisitions, just everything. It's so hard. You just want to enjoy the games, but I take big interest in the wider industry because, I want to know where I'm spending my money and if it's wise that I'm spending my money there and all this kind of stuff. My money means a lot to me. And yeah, but it's tiresome, right? All this games industry stuff. And I hope the headlines moving forward are a bit simpler and not big overarching, oh my God, what the hell is happening? Who's doing what? I think it's, hopefully a bit more easier to digest in future. So, there was a lot to talk about today. But as I mentioned, I'm intrigued. I really am intrigued to see where things are going. I think we're in a recession now as well, which is another painful thing to think about. But things will come around, hopefully, in the long term. And there is exciting stuff happening, and there's loads of games coming for this year. Moving on to what will be another recurring section of this podcast, and that is gameplay. What have I been playing this week, and what do I think about it? Is there anything I want to say about my gaming? Now, I like to play lots of different games, even though I'm on podcasts for Resident Evil, Gears of War, Fallout, Starfield. I don't just play those games. I play loads of games. I am an Xbox player, as I've mentioned. I do have a Switch. I have lots of retro consoles. But what's been on my rotation this past week? A little known, small game that no one has been talking about. And that is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Have you heard of it? Have you heard this game? Anyone heard of this game? Of course you've heard of it, because people haven't stopped losing their minds about it. There's been a lot of negativity thrown at this game. In short, Rocksteady's first game since Batman Arkham Knight, many years in development. Everyone was kind of excited at the reveal, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and that excitement slowly waned, or very quickly waned, when everybody learned that this was effectively a live service game. Yeah, with all the stuff that comes with live service. The game was previewed by IGN and a couple of other outlets who basically slaughtered it. Now, slaughtering a game in a preview is kind of wild journalistic tactics and really kind of insane to see. There was all big fuss about outlets not getting codes, which turns out is really common for live service games. So there was a big fuss about nothing there. And then the game came out to really kind of fascinating reviews and responses. Most of the reviews that came out were like, this game's dull, repetitive, boring, and isn't working. It's not very good. It's everything we didn't want it to be. But it runs really well, and the characters are amazing, and the story's really good, and it actually does a few things. It's tried to learn from mistakes of other live service games, but it's still just really crap. And yeah, it's like rated 2 out of 5 and 5 out of 10. But then there were some outliers that gave it higher scores. And then we saw, after the game was released, despite not massive player counts, player and audience feedback was like, you know what, this game's not bad. This game's pretty fun. What's all the bad reviews about? I'm really enjoying it. I will give a shout out to my buddy, the real Ark Thompson. He was playing it and was saying that he was having a blast, and he plays a lot of video games. He plays pretty much everything that comes out. And I started to see this really weird, like, conflicting views and conflicting opinions, where most critics were kind of dunking on the game, but then people playing it were like, nah, it's fun, it's fine, don't listen to the critics. So I kind of saw enough of the game, and believe me, I had no desire for a Suicide Squad live service game. It's just, I would have never in a million years asked for that. Just a more narrative driven, closer to the other Arkham games. Sure, I wanted that too. But I saw enough of like mixed reactions and confusing and fascinating reactions that I was like, I'm going to play this. I'm going to see what it's like. Picked it up. Only cost me 50 quid because I got a good deal. And I am now probably like 40 hours in. Maybe not quite 40 hours. Maybe 30, 35. I've been playing it for just over a week. I've finished the main campaign. And that was a couple of days ago I finished the main campaign, and since then have been kind of slightly engaging with the end game missions that you're supposed to. And I did a tweet about it, a very concise tweet, where I said that effectively what my tweet was trying to say was, I think skewed expectations and everyone's live service fatigue have have really, well, I should say misplaced expectations and live service fatigue have skewed the response to this game. Because a lot of the reviews, even the ones that scored it low, cited some really good aspects about the game. And for me, all those good aspects were getting overlooked by the fact that people were frustrated they didn't get what they want and they don't want to play live service stuff. The fact is, loads of people do want to play live service stuff. Am I one of those people? No, not really. But there's lots of people out there that do. There's lots of people that want to group up with their friends and do, raids or repetitive endgame missions and grind for better gear. It's not, it's not uncommon. Is it a thing that's going to last going forward? And I don't just mean for Suicide Squad, I mean for other games. That remains to be seen. It's very hard to have a game that sticks in that sense, to have a Destiny, to have a Fortnite, to have an Apex, etc., etc. But just from my perspective in playing this game, to think that anyone who played this game could score it lower than like 7.5 is insane to me. In a time where so many games are launching broken and so many games are, I suppose, what shall we say, costing, your 70 quid and under delivering, this game didn't shy away from what it is. And funnily enough, some really talented people have apparently worked on it, because the storyline, the characters, the production values, the gameplay are all incredibly high quality, incredibly tight. Some of the tightest gunplay I've played in. I've played maybe since like Titanfall 2. Is it chaotic? Yes. Is there too much stuff on the HUD? Yes. You can turn some of that stuff off. Does it deliver the Arkham story experience we all wanted? Not really, but it's delivering something else. And I found myself completely engaged with the story. I found myself thinking the characters and the character interactions and the performances were some of the best in a superhero game, like, ever, probably. And within the context of what this game is, and me accepting what it was, I've just had so much fun and I'm hooked. And I haven't played for 30 hours out of spite and hate. I've played because I want to. I want to go back and play. Now, is it perfect? No, there's definitely some issues. I can see the repetitive nature of some of the missions and things like that. And I would have liked some more variety in the story missions. But then I sit and think, and I'm like, well, this is, a live service game. The idea being that this is a launch. This is effectively a chapter 1, or, a season 1, if you like. Although technically it's not season 1 because their season 1 launches soon. But this is a launch of an intended longer term thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what they're doing and that's their aim, fine. And within that context, it's incredibly solid. I mean, if it's not your and the thing is, I'm playing it by myself as well. I'm not grouping up with people. I'm just playing it by myself. You don't interact with anybody else. All the your other squad members are AI, they're bots. Then you can open up your party to public and stuff like that. But I don't do that. I've just played it by myself. I've always preferred DC over Marvel, so maybe there is that bias there. I just think it's more interesting. I think, like I say, some of the funniest character interactions I've seen in a game in a while is genuinely funny. The animation on the characters is really top quality, which I think helps, because if these character models looked weird and the animation wasn't that good, then it would harm a game like this. I think it needs that level of production value to make it work. But I've had fun. I don't want to say switching my brain off, because that doesn't seem fair. I've had fun getting into the systems and getting into the map and finding, Riddler trophies and doing the Riddler challenges. Now, the Riddler trophies aren't as exciting as the Arkham games where you had to use your tools and stuff like that. This is just a case of find them. But, this is, I don't want to compare it too much to those games because this is trying to do a different thing. And I think about, am I getting value for money? Yeah, absolutely. Like in droves. And then to think that there's some free updates coming to this with more characters and more missions and stuff, I'm like, great, cool. I'm definitely going to check it out. Am I going to play it forever? Probably not. I don't really do that with hard any games. You know, it's rare that I'm playing a game. I don't really jump on these live service games. Fallout 76 is the closest thing I've come to that. But I have talked many times on my Fallout podcast about how that grinding nature of the scoreboards and stuff, it's not really for me. I play it when they do the big story drops and the big expansions, and that's it. I'm not grinding out every scoreboard or every season. But here in Suicide Squad, there's been enough to absolutely bring me back. I've wanted to play it every day because the gunplay is fun. The loot system is not overbearing. Like, I think I've referenced this a few times. I think about the first time I played Back for Blood, and as soon as it starts, they hit you with like 1,000 cards that you can get. I was just like, nope, I'm out. It's too much to think about. Even Dead by Daylight, which, you know, is a live service game, all the perks and stuff and that's it's just so broad and so in depth. I'm like, I'm never going to have time to study all this. I can't do it. Here in Suicide Squad, the skill tree, the loot that you get is so stripped back that it's actually easy to digest and it's not overbearing. And I found myself going, okay. Oh, I've got a few different weapons there. Let's just bin those ones off and use this one, and I can upgrade this one. And I've been really getting into its systems, and I'm still playing it. And as I said, I finished the campaign. I'm grinding some of the end game, but then still playing other stuff as well. It's not. I'm not really seeing it as a job. I'm playing it because it's got me hooked. Does it have legs forever? Yeah, who knows? I'm very keen to see what this big first content drop is for Season 1, which I think is really soon. I think it's in March. Apparently the Joker's coming to the game, or a version of the Joker. But all I can say is I'm not trying to be contrarian here, and I play a lot of games. I play as much as I can, and I very often do align with, you know, what's popular and stuff. But now and again, I don't. Just like we all do. We have our own tastes, and I think, am I just being weird? Am I just weirdly liking a shit game? No, I don't think that's the case here, because there's games I play and like that are probably terrible, and I would openly say they were terrible. This isn't that for me. This is clearly the launch of a long-term project. I think there's plenty to enjoy there. Is it perfect? No. Is it what everyone wanted? Clearly not. But does that mean it's bad? No, definitely not. And I think the reviews have been insanely harsh. Well, it's lots of the reviews. I think IGN's hate campaign against it is just kind of embarrassing, to be honest. That was like, I hope Suicide Squad is what kills the looter genre. And it's like, come on, what are you doing? Those kind of comments are just, absolute nonsense. So many talented people worked on this game. And they've been very open, the devs online, about their work on this game and how they're proud of it. And they should be, because there's something here with Suicide Squad. There absolutely is. I don't love it. I absolutely don't love it. But I definitely don't hate it. And it's so annoying that we live in this time where that's the, you know, that's it for everybody. Something has to be amazing, or it has to be shit. There can be no in between. Well, there is in betweens. This is a solid launch for a game that I did not expect to like. Insanely high production values, great character, tight gameplay, can switch your brain off to a degree, but the story's fun and worth playing. If you don't want to drop the full price on it, sure, wait for a sale, wait till it comes to a subscription service, I suppose. But I hope this game doesn't die off, because I think there's massive potential. I know the player count is like abysmal on Steam, but apparently it's insanely good on consoles. So who knows? There could be legs in it yet. I've been having a lot of fun with Suicide Squad, and I just wanted to talk about that here openly and honestly. Like, I'm not ashamed. I think it's got something, and I'm really confused at how down on this game people have been in a time where we're allowed to be critical. We can be critical of devs and things we don't like and stuff like that. But I just think about games like, you know, Gollum and that King Kong game, something else. I mean, Power World, don't get me started on Power World. Power World is, you know, it's a Frankenstein of a game that I'm just not going to get into right now. But for me, there is quality here. I think some people are just upset it's not what they wanted. I kind of think about how I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent. It's the same with Welcome to Raccoon City, the Resident Evil movie, which was definitely not what a lot of people wanted. Is it a perfect movie? No, definitely not. Did I actually quite enjoy it and have a lot of fun with it? Absolutely. And it's kind of similar here. And I think, yeah, it's fun to hate stuff. It's fun to dunk on stuff. I think people are being way too harsh on Suicide Squad. And I encourage you to check it out because there is high quality there. What's the other game that came out? That Capcom one. I was going to say Dino Crisis. It's not. There's the one with dinosaurs. I can't even remember the name. Yeah, games like that just obviously have been farmed out and there's no real quality in there, in my opinion. And something like this, yeah, Suicide Squad has something and I'm excited to see where it goes and I hope it does well. You know, games, although the player count might be low right now, games can turn it around. Look at Halo Infinite. It's turned things around. So yeah, I'm really, really enjoying Suicide Squad. I also last night got the Tomb Raider remastered 1 to 3. Really such a shame there's no physical version of that. But I've got it anyway. Took myself back to some, gave myself some nostalgia, some toxic nostalgia last night playing that. I've only kind of messed around in it for a couple of hours. But yeah, I'm one of the people that, despite it being a remaster, absolutely prefers playing it with the old graphics. So you can switch between, like Halo the Master Chief Collection. And yeah, I'm looking forward to playing a bit more of that. Okay, now I honestly could just keep talking probably for another 45 minutes to an hour, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to put you through that torture. I'm going to wrap it up. This has gone slightly over an hour. I want to try and keep these to about an hour, I think. But we'll see. We'll see how things go. And as I've said, future ones will probably be a bit more concise. This was an experiment for episode 1. Kind of happy with how it's gone, but let me know what you think. If you made it this far, like I said earlier, thank you. Well done. Give yourselves a massive pat on the back. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening to it. I probably will put audio versions on YouTube as well. Like a video that you can just listen to. And yeah, come and tweet me at K_D_B_. I'm still on there for now. Reach out to me and tell me what you think about the news headlines. Tell me what you think about Suicide Squad. What games are you playing? Looking forward to having people on, chatting about games, chatting about what we're playing. Almost nothing is off the table, really. And yeah, I hope you come along and join me every Sunday morning, probably every Sunday. I'm going to do my best. It might be bi-weekly at this rate. We will see. I think there's always going to be something to talk about. So even if it's a 30-minute episode, I'll be jumping on. Like I say, just talking into my phone while I'm sat down on the sofa, still in my dressing gown. There's an image that you will probably be horrified by. But I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much if you have listened today. Look forward to doing more. I will be back again next week to talk more game headlines, more gameplay, all kinds of gaming stuff here on the Gaming Aroma podcast. Till then, bye-bye.